All right, hello, and welcome to this week's Up Close, where I, Randy Dixon, Artistic Director of Unexpected Productions, talks improv and other things with someone from around the world. And today we're lucky to have Felipe Ortiz here, I guess I should say. And he's a internationally known teacher and performer with movement, physical, clowning, you name it, let alone acting and other stuff and improv. And so we're going to have an hour-long chat about different things and see where it takes us. So first of all, thank you, Felipe, for being here and doing this. And again, if you have thoughts or questions, feel free to type them into the Facebook feed, and I'll be kind of watching that. And yeah, so how are things there? Just in
Well, in general, a bit strange. Uh, we moved from lockdown to be able to go and do some stuff. Slowly getting reactivating things, but numbers going high, so a weird feeling.
right, right. And by there, for those that don't know, Felipe lives in Colombia.
Yeah.
So,
Bogata.
and as a movement person, who someone who likes to move, are you feeling a little trapped in your place, or are you able to get it out and spend some energy?
I think the first 3 months I started very early to train here at home, and it was really interesting because it really gave me some time to put together a lot of things that I've been working on for a long time, talking about movement.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool. I was training every day and trying to put stuff together and kind of developed something that I wanted to develop for a long time. Uh, so a way of training, a way of getting connected to movement. Uh, I think that as a performer, actor, improviser, you need to, your body is your main tool. So as more as you know it, as more as you have it available, the better. So I've been working on that for this lockdown, which has been amazing. So yeah, I'm not trapped, just using my space, everything I have.
Right.
And luckily, I've had some short periods that I was able to go to our studio.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, between home and the studio, uh, freedom.
Cool. And then you're also doing a lot of teaching online as well. And I think you're the first movement person I've interviewed on Zoom since all this happened. So, how has it affected your teaching? I mean, other than just you have this equipment, but do you find that you're able to do most of the things you normally would, or have you changed things?
Definitely. Starting that at the beginning, I was really like not into it. Like I was really away from teaching. I thought, as we all did, that this was not going to be that long. So my first impulse was like, okay, I'm not going to teach. I'm not going to use this Zoom thing. I'm just going to take a break. But very early in the lockdown, I started getting requests to teach. So I said, okay, let's do it. And at the beginning, it was very interesting to feel like a student again, as I was teaching in a way. So trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, how to be able to teach what I know, what I normally do in real life, and adjust it. So it's been very interesting. I discovered new things, and also like normal things that I was used to, they don't work. So as an improviser, it's been interesting to listen, to adjust, to explore.
Right.
So that has been fun.
Okay. I guess with the discovery, and maybe there's not an answer to this question, I don't know, but in the new things you discovered in teaching online, uh, did you discover anything that works better in movement online than it might in person, or as good, I guess?
Uh, I really don't know.
Okay.
Uh, because of course that's the most difficult part. Like in movement, it's always good to be close to see the body, the 3D
Right.
body, but this has brought like a lot of I've been teaching like a movement workshop, and I've got like people from different parts of the world, which that has been really cool. And I'm surprised to see how like the development or the evolution of the students as we do movement online.
Right.
So I guess I was how do you say that, undervaluing, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, the power of teaching like this, because I thought we were going to miss a lot of things, or it was going to be very difficult to show and to be able to share the information,
Right.
but it actually works. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Um, so let's go back in time to to your origins and when you got interested in performing. And was improv there from the very beginning, or were you first working in the physical aspects of theater, and that was your first introduction, or was it something completely different?
I think I started with sports.
Hmm.
I was not really into theater when I was in the school, but I was doing a lot of sports, racquetball, basketball, volleyball. Um, I was like national champion of racquetball here
Wow.
for a couple of years when I was like 12 till 15, something like that. And so I was really interested in the body and the possibilities of the body.
Right.
And then I did some martial arts, and then in the school I was joining every kind of competition that there was, theater, dance, music, everything like that. But then when I got out of the school, I went to the university to study industrial design
Right.
or design. Um, but I joined the theater group because they were using a lot of physical stuff, and my girlfriend at that time was part of the group, and she said like, you're going to enjoy this.
Right.
And I did. Actually, I joined the theater group, and it was really cool because the director came from Grotowski School, so
Hmm.
it was a lot of movement and stuff and some acrobatics. And that really connected me. Like I was like, wow, this is cool. I never thought that you could do theater this way.
Right.
But my brain and everything was just pointing in the direction of being a designer. And then I started to get really connected to that. I started doing gymnastics and capoeira and a little bit of Tai Chi. And then I learned some juggling because I met a Spanish guy once in a Caribbean. So I was like, wow, this is cool. So I started juggling and all this. And when I was in the theater group, I met a friend, Beto, you know him?
Mm-hmm.
And we used some impro exercises for putting together our shows because that was the way that the director used to use. So we were like really connected with Beto, and we started playing and just having fun with those exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we came to the director and we said to him, like, we have a brilliant idea. And then he said, like, what? And we said, how about a show that is completely improvised? And the guy was like, ah, that sounds cool. And the next time we did a rehearsal, the director said to the rest of the group, like, okay, Felipe and Beto, they have something to show you. And we were like, what are you talking about? And then you said, like, you said to me you wanted to do something improvised, just do it. So we started doing crazy stuff that day. We were there. I remember we found like a code that was every time we were lost, we turn off the lights and we turn them on again, and we will start something different.
Right.
And then the other, we were there like 45 minutes doing crazy stuff. And then the rest of the group was like, wow, that was cool. How long have you been doing that? And then it was like, yeah, 40 minutes. And then the director said to us that, yeah, you should keep doing this. You should maybe develop something and try it in a small space that there was in the university for storytellers and musicians and stuff, like to try things. So we started doing that kind of show there. And then, like, I guess like 6 months after that, or more or less, the director came one day with some copies, photocopies. And he said, like, maybe you're interested in this. And then we started reading that. And it was Improv from Keith Johnstone.
Right.
We started reading that, and we were like, oh man, these guys told our ideas. You know, like just 20 years ago, but he did. And then it was amazing to read it, because it was like a lot of stuff that we were already doing, and a lot of stuff that we didn't even had words for that we were doing, you know?
Right.
We were doing some things, and then, wow, this is what we are doing, and it's very clear. Because in Colombia, impro didn't existed, you know, like there were no impro groups. And because we were studying, there was impro as a subject in some performing arts programs, but we were doing other stuff, so we had no idea that impro was a thing. Right. Or a theater genre. So we started doing that, and actually like 4 years after that, some festival here in Manizales, in a city, they invited a group from Argentina, and they do impro. So that was the first time we saw another group doing impro after like 4 years of doing impro, you know? Right. So that was really cool. Like it was in a way a discovery, and we did it ourselves. And I guess that's why we started with our own style in a way. Like we were like, okay, what else can we use for this? And then clowning, yes, we loved like Chaplin and Buster Keaton, so we looked for clown workshop. And then let's do some stage fighting. So we took some stage fighting workshops, and we started mixing all this stuff. Right. And that's how I got to improv.
So the question has two parts based on what you were just saying. So during that 4-year period, really, where you guys were independent of anything, just doing, deciding and figuring it out for yourself, what was one thing that you discovered that you haven't really encountered elsewhere? So something that really helped you guys develop your style, because it does seem to be a very unique style. And then the second part of the question is, along the same lines, what helped you the most or made the most sense in impro when you first heard it? So like an idea of Johnstone's from impro, or something else that somebody said or taught, and you were like, oh yeah, that, you know. So thoughts?
I guess the connection with the audience was something very important, and I think that was like our main core. That was like our core, because we very early in those days we took some clown workshops, and we grew up in our impro style, having that connection that the clown has with the audience as our core. So all those years they were very into comedy and into honesty and just sharing everything. And it was very surreal in a way, because I remember the scenes and the type of impro that we did in those times, and it was really surreal, like crazy stuff. And then in those days, the director of that theater group brought an impro teacher from the school, and to give a workshop to the students, to the people from the theater group. And when he saw us, he was like, wow, these people have a lot of potential. So we did some projects with him and some students of the university. But I guess like when we saw for the first time an impro group, these people from Argentina, it was like a boom, like a enlightenment in a way, and something that really reinforced us to keep doing what we were doing, because it was more or less watching someone doing something that you kind of struggle with sometimes and develop, and watching something in other directions, like they were doing like genres, and they were doing some not just comedy. And then that was like a wow, this has so many things, so many possibilities.
Right. Huh. So is that when you began traveling more and doing more, exposing yourselves to more improvisation, or did it take a while before that all started?
It took like a while after that. Like we started around 95, and the first time we saw a group was around 99, something like that, or 2000. And the first time we went to an international festival was in Amsterdam in 2001. And that was another big step, like we were there and we were really afraid, and our English was not the best, and we just got there and we did our first show, and after that show people came to us and they were like, where did you learn that? Like how can you do what you do? And then we had no idea at that time, like what do you mean?
Right.
What are you? It was very interesting to realize that people were seeing something in us that was completely different from what they have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And for us was really like another time where we were like, wow, this is a whole world. We saw groups from Canada, from the States, from Europe in that festival, and they were doing, of course, like some maybe genre work, then some other type of comedy, and we didn't really realize the difference at that time. But then it became like a snowball that they started inviting us next year to another festival, and then next year, and then we started building like long tours, and since then I've been traveling and teaching and performing.
Right. In your travels all over the place, what kind of distinctions do you see? Because culture obviously has a role in improv. So like again, North Americans tend to be sort of talking heads. Um, you know, you guys with movement and physical comedy. What do you notice about the different countries and different cultural influences on improv in particular?
Well, uh, I think in different places you can see some sort of style, in a way you can call it, or some, yeah, like a filter maybe. So like you can say like most of North American impro is a lot of talking heads, as you said, like not a lot of movement, more about what you say and how you play with the language. And some groups, like there's a lot of genre work. Uh, and of course, in every country, you can see like a big range of quality and variety, right? So that's one thing. And you can see like the French people that are a little bit more into exploring and creating different things. And you can see like, of course, in every country there's a lot of variety, but the general idea,
Right.
like the Germans, you can see they play a lot into drama. Uh, so yeah, or also like Latin American improvisers, talking about that. I guess because of our culture, we are more connected to our bodies. So you can see like in Mexico, there are really cool groups that they started from acting schools.
Mm-hmm.
So they have really cool mix with physicality and acting,
Huh.
or storytelling, but with a lot of acting skills. And Brazil, I know a lot of people from Brazil that are more, they come from clowning and they mixed it with impro, so it's more relaxed and more clowny.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess you can find little differences or a generality of a style, if you could say that.
Right. When you're teaching, do you feel like, or I guess I'm asking about your method in terms of teaching. So you're walking in, let's say, first time in another country, group of improvisers that you don't know. What are you doing in your warm up? I assume your warm up with them as a way of sort of getting a feel for the people in the room? Are there certain techniques, one, and two, what is that thing that you're looking for in a given improviser?
I think it depends on what I'm teaching. Let's say like I teach a lot a workshop that is called like physical improv, and it moves a lot on how to connect your body and use it and be aware of what your body is telling as you improvise, and try to make it coherent. Is that a word?
Yeah, current. Yeah,
Yeah, like that.
Coherent, so that
Right.
Yeah.
That what you are saying is matching what your body is saying.
Right.
So, and that, and also I teach a lot of scenes without words, or how to improvise without words. So in those type of workshops, what I do is, I guess you as an improviser, you develop a lot of listening, and I have like an idea of something that I call like deep listening, that is connected to what you listen with your body, what you perceive with your body, and how you developed from what you read from people's bodies. So I guess once I start the warm up and I can see how people are connected to their bodies and what do we need for individuals or as a group as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting, I find, as a teacher, that first, say, half hour to hour of a workshop where I'm working with people I don't know, just trying to discover, okay, what do we have here to play with, to work with, and what strengths and what are the weaknesses of the group. So I'm always curious to see how other people kind of go about that.
I guess as in any scene, you have to be willing to abandon your ideas. Like sometimes I have like a program, like a very tough program.
Right.
And once I met the group, then I realized maybe like that happens a lot in Europe, like there's a lot of professional groups or improvisers, but there's a lot of people that maybe they have side jobs and they do improv as a professional hobby,
Right.
but they are not willing to sweat on a workshop room, for example. And then you go like, okay, I have to adjust everything.
Right.
I have to come with something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever once taught my list. I'm always
Yeah.
going off.
Exactly.
Have the list. Seemed like a good idea, but hey, we're going this direction. All right. So that's good. Another teaching question, I guess, because I'm really interested in, you've been doing these workshops in magical realism, and so I'm curious as sort of the intersection between improv and magical realism. So, as a style or genre, so to speak, are there things about improv and doing improv that are like, just this fits in with magical realism so amazingly well? And are there things that don't, or kind of obstacles that you have to overcome if you're going to do magical realism?
Hmm. I think I felt in love with magical realism many years ago, and like 6 years ago, I guess I had the chance to work to direct an improv ensemble in the university that I'm teaching here in Bogota. And so we dived like 6 months into magical realism with 20 students, So the thing I think improv has very connected to magical realism has to do a lot with spontaneity, but in a very deep level. I think there are different levels of spontaneity, right? And once you become like a trained improviser, you can more or less control your spontaneity.
Right.
So in that sense, it becomes a like a timed spontaneity,
Right.
so that you control your spontaneity. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a pure spontaneity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that connected me with my early days. That was pure spontaneity. No judgment, no control. Just let it out, whatever, boom, and play with it. And where is that leading you? So then you will move more into surreal, more than magical realism.
Right.
But then when you mix those things and you study the genre, then you can kind of open the door of spontaneity in that field that you want it to go. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So you're taking your spontaneous impulses and focusing them in the style and using it as a tool. And if I'm understanding what you're saying, because I like the idea of you know a deeper level of spontaneity that we do have some control over. I've found in my classes, I've been talking a lot about uh, you have groups and improvisers who feel like, oh, just improv something that happens to you, right? Versus having some level of control. And I think
Mm,
that's what you're talking about is refining that control and kind of focusing it on a particular aspect of that opens that door to magical realism.
yeah.
I like that a lot.
And yeah, I guess it's connected with something that we were talking about a couple of years ago or last year when we met about the the basics, right? That we were talking about how cool it is to go to the basics, and and that's something that is really connected to and helpful to the genre. Because if you are open and you just free your brain and connect with your spontaneity, you will find a lot of magical realism material. And then if you know the genre, you know the storytelling style of the genre, it's easy to fly in that direction. And the difficult part is that, but I guess this is connected to every genre work, it's that when you have a lot of knowledge of a genre, then you go a lot into your brain when you are improvising because you have like a checklist, like,
Right.
okay, I have to do this in order to be a genre.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you have a list. So it's like I have a list of things I'm supposed to do, and then during the scene, I go, "Oh, just a second, let me check the list."
yeah,
Versus knowing the list of skills and what improv can do, and then putting aside that list and then just going forward with it. Sort of like playing scales in music or something like that. A real deep understanding of the basics then allow you to kind of go wherever you want. And I imagine that magical realism is a challenging genre because there's so many really interesting parts to it. So,
I I guess I will connect that point with sports,
mhm.
and that's why I love also about impro, and it's very close to sports. And so when you play basketball, for example, so you train to throw from different parts, you train the skill of uh, the ball, like moving the ball and catching it and throwing it, and then, right? But when you're playing, you're not thinking about, okay, I'm about to hit the ball and I'm going to throw, you just do it. You're playing, you react to what is happening in the game. And if you think of impro as a genre work, you should train a lot, know, investigate, explore the genre, but once you're there, you have to trust that everything is here, and then just play,
Right.
and be spontaneous, and let things flow, and use your skills and be there, you know. So
Right. Yeah, it seems that there are a lot of improvisers out there, and in almost every conversation, we've talked a little bit about structure stuff, structure of forms. And I may have said this in one of the other interviews, and I do talk about it in classes, which is, to me, the structure is like being a train on a railroad track. You can only go where there's track. You can only go, from point A to point B on the track versus driving a car where you can kind of make a right turn here or a left turn there. Or even more so, like if you're on a bike or walking, where you can all of a sudden just cut through somebody's yard or go where there are no roads, right? And so to me, that's one of the dangers that we run into with the with overstructure, and and I think I'm noticing it seems to be getting better, or maybe I'm just getting used to it. Uh, but I'm definitely seeing, and this goes back to our conversation a year or so ago about getting back to basics. Trying to get people to focus on that rather than on trying to develop and learn a structure.
mm,
Um, you know, so it's that notion, and I assume, knowing you, that what you're trying to do is teach people. I mean, in all your directing and teaching, but since we're talking about magical realism, you're trying to give people the skills of magical realism so that they can take that anywhere they want. Not, you got to hit this beat, this beat, this beat, and that's your magical realism structure. Is that true?
yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right.
I developed a format, but it's quite open, and I just play with some things from that format in the online stuff.
Uh huh.
But yeah, that's the idea. And also I think when you teach a structure, you're kind of teaching a truth, and I think that impro needs freedom in a way. And your example with the train is really cool. And then I thought about parkour.
Yeah.
Like if you can even just climb houses and go across, jump out of the roofs, like do stuff that you are not supposed to,
Right.
even that.
I do want to get into talking about circus skills and your experience with circus and what you find uh, magical about circus skills, and how you are using them in your improv work as a performer and or as a teacher and director. But definitely I see it in your performing, and it's great. So
Well, yeah, I run a circus company and one of the artistic directors of the company. And let's say my specialities in the circus are acrobatics, juggling, and clowning.
hmm
But of course, as a circus artist, you do a lot of training with different things. So I do some aerial stuff, but just for training. Like I wouldn't do like an act of straps, but in some shows I do a little piece of straps in a big choreography or stuff like that.
right.
But what I found in the connection, um, it's more like, and that connects to movement, right? Like if you're able to do a somersault or a flip flap or just like crazy jumps or stuff
Right.
like that, and you're doing a scene, even though you're not doing those jumps in the scene, uh, when the audience sees your body in action, they can feel that in a way.
Right.
But also, it's really cool when you get to a point where the scene really needs a jump and you're able to do it. because people for sure are not expecting that an improviser will come out with something like that. So that's a really cool thing when it happens, and when it's justified, you know, like it's not just like going out and say hello and do a somersault.
Right.
Because that's cheap.
Yeah.
But when you are able to justify it and it really suits the scene and it happens, it's the reaction of the audience is really connected to the reaction of the audience of a circus show when they just admire a skill, you know,
Right.
as a surprise, you know, in a way.
Right. Yeah, no, I've seen that reaction to stuff you've done, let alone my own physical work that I work, my backflips and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And also the surprise of the other improvisers, of your partners, when that happens. I remember once I kicked you in the face. And it's really cool to see how improvisers react to something that they are really not expecting.
right.
It's pushing them into, wow, okay, how
Yeah, yeah.
can I deal with this?
Well, it's an offer it's sort of like Johnstone's circle of possibility, right? Where it's like, of course, there are going to be people on stage who have these physical skills, but when they demonstrate it, and again with such skill, it is pretty amazing. Being on stage with somebody like you, it is kind of like, okay, who knows what's going to happen here, but it's all possible. And I think most of the time when you're on stage with people, you think, oh, we're gonna do a scene, it's gonna be a lot of talking and some limited physicality, but when you get these great offers, and I agree with you, I think an audience finds it really refreshing and surprising when something like that happens. And that's sort of one of the skills, I guess, to back up just a second, because you and I are both in Orcas Island Project, and the thing with Orcas Island is one of the things I like is everyone kind of brings a different skill set. It's sort of like a group of assassins or something like that. Everyone has their own, Felipe's the sniper, and and pair deals with dynamite, that kind of stuff. But everyone brings like a skill set that I really like in terms of, and that's kind of what I shoot for in a lot of shows, which is just the variety of people. Um, do you find it hard to find a I mean, physical people for shows? And let me
Um,
clarify. I would imagine because you were talking about the culture in Latin America, uh, making people in their bodies just to begin with. So I'm assuming that it's a little easier to find students and things like that who have some sort of awareness of movement. But when you go to a festival or another country, do you find it hard to find people with any of those skills? Or
yes, I guess you adjust, so it's not a problem, you know.
hmm
And let's say I don't realize the lack of it, but when you find someone that you connect in a physical way, it's wonderful.
right,
You know, like you go like, wow, you speak my language in a way. You know, like this feeling, because sometimes when you do some miming stuff with people that are not used to it, you have to really slow down and show the basics and play with the basics, because it's difficult because people are not used to it.
hmm
But once suddenly you met someone that you have that connection and that skill in a way, it's really cool to fly a little bit in that direction. But
right,
it's not the common thing.
right.
It happens once in a while, but it's not easy, as you said.
In working with improvisers in these situations, and again, maybe in a traveling situation more so than working at home, but maybe it's working at home too. It, in terms of improvisers that you encounter, if you were going to give, and there's no exact number, two, three, one, five, physical skills that you wish uh, more improvisers would just work on. And again, it's not the notion of, well, everyone should learn to do a backflip, because how often is that going to come up? But what are the physical skills that are really lacking to your eye when you're watching improv?
One is that thing that we were talking about, the coherent with what people
Coherent.
say and what their bodies are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, but that is not like a must, is the work with imaginary objects and spaces, because there's a lot of improv that happens in a naked stage.
Mm-hmm.
And people will use fake glasses, and if you're using, of course that's my point of view, right, because I'm really into it. So when I see people using an imaginary glass for starting, and they are in the scene and then they just go like this, and so why are you like, I feel disappointed as an audience because you're playing with my imagination. And if you build a glass, I want to believe that there is a glass, and I want to see where the glass is going. Or
Mm-hmm.
and it's more or less like with storytelling, you know, like if you say that I mean Hamlet, if Hamlet wants to find what is the thing with his father, but he doesn't take it serious and he goes somewhere else. Like he has the meeting with his father, but then he says like, okay, mom, I'm going on vacations, goodbye. And then you go like, why? You're supposed to solve the mystery or make justice or something.
Right.
So I have a little bit of that feeling sometimes, you know, like people open a door, they close it, they have a scene, and then they just go across
Right.
the
Right.
door or the table. But you know, like it's because my brain works a lot with images. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the other thing.
Okay. Um, what formats or games, so whether they're long forms or just simple games, do you find uh, most useful and or fun to play in the physical realm? I mean, and some of them are pretty straightforward because they're physical games, but are there other games that you think there's a physical aspect to this game that's not played enough or highlighted enough?
Mm, well, the first one that just popped into my mind is the what comes next exercise. You know, like
Right.
I've really pushed that exercise with my students into a very physical level, into working with imaginary objects and spaces and with the actions and activities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to watch from a physical aspect when you make that tilt with that game into physicality.
Right. And do you think that that comes from in that game? What comes next? Do you think people tend to go too fast
Mm-hmm.
and not take the physical seriously and not take the time, as you were saying, to kind of set up the physical?
Yeah, and also there's a good timing for that. So not too fast, not too slow, but
Mm-hmm.
also I think it starts bringing a sort of spontaneity of the body itself.
Right.
And I have some exercises to work on spontaneity of the body in a way.
Right. Right. Well, and
So,
it's interesting because the other thing is the opportunity that arises when you take your time to do something. There are more offers contained in it rather than like, rushing through something just to get to the next thing, but rather taking the time to again expand on the physical environment or physical activity. So
And that also opens like a wonderful space for scenes without words or silence in the scenes.
right,
Like there's a lot of impro in the world that it's the improvisers feel that they have to fill the gaps with words,
right,
and they don't take the time to, and they don't realize how powerful the silence is, and how that connects again with the body, like how powerful it is an action in silence,
right.
and how full of meaning it can be after saying something.
And I would assume that you feel the same way about stillness
Yep.
in the physical world, the power of stillness.
Yep.
Cool. Um, so we have a few minutes left, but I want to make sure we get this in as well because those who are watching this, Felipe is going to be teaching an online course for Unexpected Productions in September, and I wanted to give you us a little chance to maybe talk a little bit about what your class is about and what the students might expect going into it. So yeah, I guess what's the basic?
Uh, it's a movement workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do in that workshop is play with a lot of different techniques, from dance, from martial arts, from acrobatics, from physical theater, uh, in order to try to understand, first to connect with your body and move just for the pleasure of moving, realize your limits and your possibilities,
Right.
and also get in connection to the analysis of movement and how can you make movement expressive.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see stuff from love and movement analysis, some viewpoints stuff, but also some movement connections that come from dance, contemporary dance, maybe break dance, martial arts, and stuff like that. But it's not to be afraid of that. Like it's not like a super high level, and we're not going to do somersaults and stuff like that. It's very safe. But I find it really cool to be able to connect and understand your body.
Right. So people won't be kicking each other in the face or.
Not in this workshop. That's another workshop.
And yeah, is there, I guess, based on what you're saying, I think I can probably make the assumption, but I assume that there's no sort of requirement for the workshop. It's just about getting to know your body, whatever your body is, and whatever your skill set is. Is that
Yeah, I guess if you are trained, if you normally move, run, or have any sort of training, it's better.
mm-hmm.
Like I would say, if you never move, it's going to be tough. But yeah, it's quite
Okay.
open. We can work in different levels as well.
Right. And in terms of teaching and teaching this class and things like that, the methods that you're using, are there particular teachers or people that you tend to use a lot more, or are you tending to kind of do your own thing and find your own way to achieve something physically?
I didn't get it.
In terms of, are there movement or physical teachers or clowns or things that you rely on in your teaching that somehow inspired you? Like Johnstone inspires people in improv, or Paul Sills or Del Close. So there's like particular schools of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious whether you have some of those. I mean, obviously you have influences because you had some training, but do you still continue to use those from those teachers, or have you kind of found your own solutions when you're teaching these classes?
Talking about movement, right?
Yeah.
Um,
First, we'll talk about movement.
what?
First, we'll talk about movement. Then I'm also curious about improv from you.
I guess in movement there is a lot of stuff that I have connected from different things that I have done.
Hmm.
But for example, I really like something, a guy called Ido Portal.
Hmm.
He's a big inspiration. He's from Israel and he has this thing, movement culture in a way. I have never had the chance to train with him or to take any of his workshops,
Right.
but I follow him in the philosophy and everything. But I do have like a strong influence from capoeira, from dance, from slapstick and physical theater, and dance. So those things connected, I think I have taken a little bit from those parts and put them together in my style in a way of teaching.
Okay. Cool. And then second part of that is in improv in terms of who you tend to go to. Is it Johnstone, since improv was the first real improv that you read about, or have there been others?
Uh, I think I'm not like a Johnstonian, if you could say that.
Sure.
But if I could say in the recipe, if there's a lot of some influence, maybe it's that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've worked a bit with him, but I have worked a lot with Patti Stiles, with Shawn Kinley, with Steve Jarrand, and I guess I've taken a lot from that side. So yeah, but as you said, like I start from something that is nothing, like I didn't learn from anything. So I have a lot of things from clowning. Like I studied clowning with Phillipe Gaullier.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of stuff from clowning that I bring into impro, and it comes from that part. And when I teach clowning, I also bring a lot of impro to my teaching in the clowning side. And of course, the movement is always present in both. So it's a complex recipe, but maybe there's a lot of influence from the philosophy of Johnstone, maybe.
Okay. Is there something while you've been uh, in your space the last few months? Are there projects or things that you're sort of going, dying to try once we can be outside of our spaces? Have you been inspired to kind of go, wow, when I can go outside and be with people, here's something I really want to try, or and not even a specific piece. Maybe it's an idea or a philosophy that you want to kind of push out there.
Uh, well, uh, definitely, like this lockdown has been really inspiring
Hmm.
in many ways. I've been moving a lot, doing a lot of stuff here at home, and I got connected very early with stop motion videos. So I've been doing a lot of stop motion videos.
Yeah, I've
And
seen a couple of them. They're great. Is there a source where people could go and see some of these, or
in my YouTube channel,
okay?
Felipe Ortiz,
Yeah, yeah, I highly
and
recommend it. They're great. They're really good.
Instagram, Felipe Theater, at Felipe Theater.
Uh-huh.
But also I've been painting a lot, and I've been doing lots of stuff that I wanted to do for a long time. And one of those things is I've never done a solo, an impro solo.
Uh-huh.
And in these days, I have a couple of ideas running in my head connected to that. The first thing is that I don't like solos because for me that goes a little bit against impro, which is connecting and, you know. So the solo I'm thinking on has a lot to do with the audience.
Right.
So I don't see it as a solo, more like a interactive thing that I do with a lot of people from the audience.
Right. Right.
We'll see. We'll see. I just have random ideas still.
Huh. Cool. All right. Well, and I'm trying to look at a calendar to see when does your class start at UP? It's the first, what day of the week? Tuesday?
It's Tuesdays. You want me to check?
No, that's okay. It's the first Tuesday though. If it's Tuesday night, from 7 to 8:30, and you can sign up through unexpectedproductions.org. And even if you go there, you'll be able to see the class listed. I want to thank Felipe for sitting here and chatting with me. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Um, and again, if you enjoyed the conversation, please feel free to make a donation. And we have lots of shows going on tonight. We have open improv show. We have Wednesday on duos. Thursday we have our wild card show, and Friday for the month of August we're doing UPTV, and then Saturday we'll have a variety of different things. And we'll be starting to run a campfire in early September. We do these once a week, and next week we're going to have another one of our teachers who's going to be teaching an online class, and that's Gosia Rozalska from Poland, from Gdansk, Poland. And she'll be here, and we'll have a chat with her. And yeah, again, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. And once again to Felipe, thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you. And again, take care of each other and be well. So.